It's a question that the greatest philosophers have mulled since the dawn of time. Could 100 men take on and defeat a single gorilla? Today, we're turning to our very own resident panel of gorilla fighting experts to bring you the definitive answer to the internet's latest philosophical quandary. For the sake of this scientific investigation, we're going to assume average specimens for both sides of this skirmish line. That is, an average gorilla against 100 average-sized human men. First, a warning, if you're thinking of solving this problem yourself by visiting the local zoo, don't. Seriously. Gorilla kind has already suffered enough, with President George Bush personally ordering Hammurabi's assassination because he knew the truth about 9/11. In the blue corner, we've got Homo sapiens, 100 of us to be specific, average members of the male side of the species, which means quite a diverse cross-section. Next time you're hanging out with a group of your friends, look around. Imagine all of you standing up for humanity's pride in a man-on-gorilla winner-take-all showdown. In other words, we are pretty screwed. Maybe this whole thing would have been more equal 300 years ago, when men and women had to brave the harsh frontier and its many dangers just to earn the right to live every day. Death by dysentery was so common people were legitimately safer drinking alcohol. Matter of fact, death itself was so common that families had at least a dozen children each. Plenty of spares and replacements for those who would inevitably die of illness or starvation. To say that humanity has gone soft would be an understatement. Physical fitness standards amongst an average cross-section of humanity are at the lowest they have ever been in our history. According to the CDC, only 2 out of 5 American youth are fit to serve in the military, a fact that is fueling a recruiting crisis for the U.S. military. And if you're non-American, the Chinese military has had to lower its recruitment standards in 2014 and to lower its physical fitness standards for all non-combat roles. Welcome to First World Status, baby! Enjoy your complimentary Big Mac and supersized Coke. The average human is, well, pretty unimpressive, to be honest. But then again, when you look at the whole of the animal kingdom, even above-average humans are pretty pathetic. This is going to come as a shocker for dudes who think muscles are a replacement for personality. But humans are weak compared to the average animal. That's not really humanity's fault, though, it's evolution's. Other animals had to evolve to be strong enough to compete for dominance, or literally kill with their teeth and claws. Meanwhile, humans developed intelligence and conflict resolution. This meant that unlike a herd animal who matures to become huge and strong with antlers to match, humans didn't evolve to establish dominance by brute strength. The dominant individuals in human society are the most clever ones that can lead their group to success season after season. At least that's how it was in the savannah. And our savannah ancestry is why, to most large animals, we're all just a bunch of noodly soy boys. You might bench 350 pounds and think that's impressive, except for the fact that the average deer is still gonna have more striking power than you and would absolutely ruin you. They are some fierce, stompy boys when they get angry, as more than one hunter trampled to near death is found out. Humans didn't evolve to overpower each other or our prey. Instead, our intellect proved to be our physical downfall. As an intelligent pack species, humanity evolved in a pretty extraordinary way that set us apart from any other ape and nearly all other animals. We became persistence hunters, lacking claws and mouths full of sharp teeth, or any significant strength to speak of. Humans developed the ability to run long distances in blazing hot savanna heat. We literally evolved a biological cheat code in the ability to sweat, combined with an ultra-efficient breathing system. It let us keep going long after other animals had dropped from exhaustion. Cheetahs may be the fastest animal on the planet, and lions may be stronger and faster than us, but they can only exert themselves for brief periods of time or risk dying of heat stroke. They simply can't shed heat fast enough to avoid cooking their own brains. So when you see a puffed-up gym bro who needs 9 different protein shakes a day to have a sliver of self-esteem, remind them that they are not what peak male form looks like. Matter of fact, this is what the peak human male form looks like. That guy probably weighs no more than 100 pounds, and if you bench 350 and think you could take him, well, it would take us an entire TED Talk to explain how wrong you are. This Maasai hunter is the pinnacle of human evolutionary perfection. His lithe form is perfectly adapted for aerobic excellence, meaning as you're trying to lunge at him with creatine coursing through your veins, he's easily sidestepping you and literally running in circles around you. And he will just keep running in circles around you until you tire yourself out and start overheating, exactly like the prey he hunts every day to put food in his family's mouth. And when you've collapsed on the floor completely exhausted, that's when he'll move in for the kill. Modern convenience, though, has moved us all far away from this example of aerobic perfection. The average male today is better adapted to a life scrolling through TikTok and doing office work than any physical exertion. On average, a male between the ages of 18 and 35 can do a single rep of bench press between 40 to 60% of his body weight. Given that they themselves are probably 20 or more pounds overweight, well, that means that the average male can't even bench press their own body weight. For deadlift, they score a little bit better, able to deadlift on average around 155 pounds. Grip strength, once important for securing prey, has diminished. The average man can generate a punching force that maxes out at around 150 psi, which isn't bad until you figure in the fact that deer, a prey animal, can kick hard enough to break human bones. Factor in a complete lack of aerobic fitness in a modern man, and you have an army of 100 combatants that suddenly looks very unimpressive on paper, especially when their opponent is quite literally physically perfect by comparison and much larger than them. But fret not, because the gorilla fight scientists in the Infographics lab still have a strategy to win this bare-knuckle fight, even if it is probably not what you're expecting. Alright, time to meet the competition, an adult silverback gorilla. Technically, silverback gorilla isn't the proper term. Silverback is simply used to describe mature male gorillas. When you think of a gorilla, there are two different types, the mountain gorilla and their lesser-known counterparts, the lowland gorillas. Despite their prowess, gorillas have not exhibited the same level of evolutionary success as other primates, and their range is extremely limited to just a small part of sub-Saharan Africa. The mountain gorilla is classed as endangered, and the rest are critically endangered, especially given the illegal gorilla hunting that is a persistent problem, despite protection by game wardens and rangers. Despite natives knowing of their existence, gorillas weren't formally recognized by academia until relatively recently in human history. One of the first popular accounts of the gorilla comes from an English adventurer, Andrew Battelle. And can we acknowledge the fact that adventurer used to be a legitimate profession? Humanity has really gone downhill in recent centuries. In 1625, Battelle's account of giant humanoid apes was met with skepticism and ridicule by many, despite natives knowing of their existence for millennia. Battelle described how the gorillas traveled together in groups and killed many natives that they ran across. That is bad news for our would-be guerrilla warriors, when one of the first historical accounts of them specifically mentions the ease with which they murder humans. Battelle goes on to say how gorillas can't be taken alive because they are stronger than 10 men. But just how strong are they really? This is what the average gorilla looks like. Those arms are thicker around than some people's waist. The creatures are just pure muscle, and this is without doing any sort of weight training. Gorillas are literally just built different. No one's ever taught a gorilla how to use the gym, and God help us all if they ever did. So gauging their exact strength can be difficult. However, gorillas have been observed bending the thick metal bars of their cages in the zoos. On average, it's estimated that a gorilla can be anywhere from 4 to 10 times as strong as a human, though. One advantage that gorillas have over humans is that strength has been evolutionarily prioritized in the species. Natural selection will favor different traits in an animal, ultimately passing down and honing those traits that best lead to survival. Cheetahs were once ordinary wildcats. The fastest of them would average more successful hunts than other members who may have preferred raw strength or other attributes. With faster cheetah ancestors being more successful than their rivals, they were more likely to survive and be selected for mating. This would continue for generations, passing down their genes and leading to individuals better adapted for speed, until one day the first official cheetah appeared on the scene. Gorillas faced many of the same problems that other hominids did. They had to evolve to live on the ground rather than in the safety of the trees. But unlike humans and our cousins, gorillas weren't suited well for running. And just like us, they lacked claws or other significant natural weapons. Thus, strength became the defining attribute of gorilla survival, leading to thousands of generations of selective breeding until today, when the average gorilla is built like a brick house. Despite having no natural predators, gorillas are no strangers to fighting. Their society is basically built on it. There's a slight difference between lowland and mountain gorillas, but generally speaking, when they mature, males will leave the family group and strike out on their own. Some mountain gorilla groups, however, will allow mature males to remain in the group, subordinate to the mature silverback. When the silverback dies, the subordinate males will compete for the privilege of being troop leader. Gorillas are a bit of a conundrum. While they lack the predatory instincts of carnivores and there's almost no documented aggression toward humans that wasn't self-defense, gorillas actually fight quite a bit amongst each other. Male gorillas tend to cooperate once a hierarchy is established, but males inside of a mixed group will rarely ever have strong bonds with each other. However, gorillas in all male groups will actually develop strong bonds with each other and express them with grooming and even play. Solo, socially inept males tend to be very aggressive toward both males and females, though. Lacking social skills, solo male gorillas will often seek to challenge a mature silverback for dominance. Solo males will even raid family groups and commit infanticide, killing the offspring of the silverback. This puts them in conflict with the females, who will fight to defend their children. As it turns out, though, most of the violence actually comes from female gorillas. Females in the same family group will have good relations with each other, but non-maternally related females will frequently be very aggressive toward each other and view each other as competition for male attention. Females will also sometimes pick fights with males, even the silverback leader, demanding to mate. Eventually, two rival males will fight to take control of a troop, and these fights can and do end in death. However, despite this, gorillas actually rarely pursue violent options and instead frequently engage in displays of strength and a behavior known as bluff charges, designed to be intimidating and warning displays. While gorillas tolerate human researchers and even tourists extremely well, males will occasionally warn individual humans with a bluff charge to keep their distance. The reason serious violence is rare is due to their strength. Gorillas are so strong that they innately know that any serious fight is likely to end in death or grievous injury. Afraid of the consequences, gorillas prefer to posture and pretend over actual violence. But when a silverback is being challenged, sometimes violence is the only answer, and these fights have a good chance of ending in death. Before a fight even starts, you're likely to see the famous chest-thumping behavior that's associated directly with gorillas. If you ever encounter a wild gorilla, here's a pro tip: don't thump your chest at them. This is specifically an intimidation tactic meant to show just how powerful the gorilla is. The larger and thus stronger the gorilla, the bigger the chest and the lower frequency the chest thumping creates. This audio cue is basically like advertising an accurate measure of your strength to a rival, and it lets them know you're not afraid to use it. Next, you're gonna see the final warning before violence. Gorillas on the verge of a fight will exhibit not just bluff charges, but they'll begin tearing off large limbs from trees and beating the ground with them or just throwing them around. They might even grab a tree and begin shaking it violently. It's all meant to advertise just how strong this gorilla is. Ignore that final warning, and it's fight night. So let's look at weapons. For the gorilla, it's obvious. Aside from incredible strength, they have huge canines that develop as the gorilla reaches maturity. Despite their intimidating size, starting at 3 inches, these teeth aren't for eating meat. They're actually evolved to help the gorilla chew up tough tree bark and rip it apart, but they're also excellent weapons, and gorillas aren't afraid to use them, leaving huge puncture wounds on rivals that can be deadly. For humans, our natural weapons are pretty pathetic, but, well, we do have one: our ability to punch. Scientists believe that our hands and our forearms actually evolved to help us punch things, given that we're absolutely useless otherwise. Like most people, you probably punched through some drywall after your mom said no to buying more Monster Energy drinks, and you probably hurt yourself. And that's because you're punching wrong. It might seem intuitive that a good punch should make use of the entire front side of a balled-up fist, but in fact, the only thing you're doing is risking a broken knuckle. Instead, you should strike with a fist that is slightly canted down, so your top knuckles absorb the energy of the punch and transfer it down to your forearm. This concentrates the kinetic energy of your punch into a smaller section, making it more devastating than if it were spread around a larger area. But it also keeps you from breaking your knuckle bones. The good news is gorillas can't punch, and you can. The bad news is gorillas don't need to because they're strong enough to tear your limbs off. Okay, it's fight night and it's time to settle the score. Who's gonna win? A single gorilla or 100 humans? The gorilla. Of course the gorilla wins. Why would anyone expect anything different? Let's explain exactly why. First, it isn't just that the gorilla is stronger than you. It's that it is massive enough, upwards of 600 pounds, that your pathetic noodle boy punches aren't going to do any significant damage to it. Gorilla bodies evolved to withstand blows from other gorillas. You get carpal tunnel playing Minecraft too long. You are literally built different, but worse. Also, the gorilla is spending every day surviving in the wild. You're probably almost out of breath just going from your gaming chair to answer the delivery driver at the front door. The gorilla's life is all about aerobic exercise. The gorilla isn't just stronger than you, it's got the stamina to repeatedly tear the arms off of attackers. Then there is this psychological factor. The moment that the rest of the crowd sees the first group of humans getting limbs removed, like petals being pulled off a daisy, most people are going to cut and run. Even if we put you in an arena with no escape, with most individuals fleeing the gorilla, it avoids its only real weakness, being overwhelmed. We did promise to tell you how you could win, though. It's probably going to result in most of the 100 humans dying, but that's a sacrifice we're willing to make. Hornets will frequently attack and raid honeybees, who are about a third of their size. Hornets are armored like tanks, so bee stings bounce off their mandibles and do nothing. But the honeybees figured out a surefire way to kill invading hornets. As soon as a hornet lands on a bee nest, it is immediately swarmed by dozens of honeybees. The hornet's powerful mandibles rip the bees apart with ease, but the bees simply keep coming. Eventually, they manage to completely overwhelm the hornet and bury it under a mass of their own bodies. Then, the bees start to vibrate their bodies, causing them to overheat. Under a pile of bees, the hornet is slowly but surely cooked alive, and some of the bees as well. If you want to survive against a rampaging gorilla, your best bet is to get the other 99 people with you to agree to bum rushing it. The gorilla can and will absolutely annihilate many of you as you try to pin it down. But eventually, the gorilla should be so tired of turning humans inside out that you're able to dogpile on it and pin it down. Anyone who's ever been in a mosh pit knows how dangerously hot it can get. With the gorilla trapped under a pile of human bodies, it's a matter of giving it lethal heat stroke due to the raising of your own body temperature. Screaming is a great way to exert yourself. Just pretend you're finally letting out everything you never said during that one family dinner. And that is how 100 humans can defeat a single gorilla by exhausting it with murder and then lying on top of it until it has heat stroke. Could 100 regular guys take down one full-grown gorilla, or would they all end up running for their lives? Drop your battle strategy or predictions for the last man standing in the comments below. Now go check out Gorilla vs. Bear, or click on this other video instead.